everyone, my name's Kristen and welcome to my Cathedral Garden. Today we are recapping my 4th graders 2020-2021 school year, so come along. If you are new here, I am so glad that you are here. For those of you that don't know, my name is Kristen and I was a former elementary education major and I taught 1st grade for a little bit before becoming a stay-at-home mom. When my oldest was born, I have a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, and a 3-year-old this past year. And I just thought I would take you along with my 4th graders year and talk about what worked and what did not. And what maybe was meh, but we might end up changing, we'll see. So, let's get started. Okay, we're gonna start off with what didn't work. And honestly, I'm gonna say one thing that has nothing to do with any one particular curriculum right off the bat, but it's something that was major and huge and did not work, and I wanna help you from making the same mistake I made at the beginning of this year. And that is, I started too many things that were new too quickly for my 4th grader. I ended up ordering all new curriculum for him, so things he had never seen or done the previous year on accident. I didn't mean to, it just ended up being what happened. And so whenever I put it in front of him on that first day and he had to learn exactly what these particular curriculums were looking for, it became a little bit of a doozy. That, coupled with the fact that I was counting on him to be able to do quite a few things on his own while I was helping our little ones, so our 2nd grader and our kindergartner with reading and stuff like that, that made the beginning of the year really, really hard for him. So I'm gonna talk about that as I go through the different curriculums, but I wish if I could go back now and do things over, I would totally start out with 1 or 2 subjects and maybe our family subjects, and that would be it. Especially that. If I started out with our family subjects, I would have him maybe just do his math for a week. And then I would have him the next week, I would maybe add in his language arts, and so on and so forth, until we got our feet wet, and until I was able to really be able to sit down with him and explain exactly what happened. I did do that, but it took a lot more repetition than I anticipated. Let's get into talking about different curriculums. I'm gonna start with our math, because I feel like that one is always such a hard thing to find out what is the right fit for a certain child. Now, I told you that I started too many things at one time at the beginning of the year so I could lead into this. I had bought Saxon 4-5 for him to complete. And I believe it is that particular book and grade, quote unquote, where it moves from it being teacher-led to it being student-led learning. And so everything he needed was in his textbook. Now there were a few things that I didn't know about when this switch happened. I have taught Saxon personally before, both in homeschool and in public school, and I loved it, so I kind of felt familiar enough with it that I did not watch any videos or anything like that. But I did not know you don't need to write in the book, in the textbook. And so that was something new that I had to figure out after the first lesson. I was like, wait, no, don't write in it, no. Then I also had to learn that you get practice sheets that are in the back of the book that they expect you to run off and use to solve your problems. I did not know that either. And so when I did figure that out, I went ahead and scanned a copy of them and then had them all bound. At a friend's house, she has a binding machine, which is amazing. So here is it's called Recording Form B, and there are numbers that correspond with the numbers in the Saxon textbook, Saxon math textbook, that he would then use this to fill out. Which is great, because if you're going to use it for the next child, you already have the textbook. Awesome, so awesome. There's also this recording form that you needed, that you could also print. Let's see, this is recording form C. Let me see if it'll focus. Come on. There it goes. Okay, so if you needed extra space to work out your problems, you had it. So, while not a huge drawback, that is something that you would need to know. And I really do like Saxon a whole lot. It can be tedious and it can be a lot of problems, but you can really get around that by saying, okay, only do the evens, or only do the odds, or only do half, or whatever. As long as they are doing well on the test and doing well on their answers that they are getting for certain problems, and they're understanding the concepts, there's no harm in that. However, like I said, I started too many new curriculums at once, and he got overwhelmed. So overwhelmed by the sheer amount of work that he was having to do, and I did not recognize it for what it was necessarily. I thought maybe just Saxon was too overwhelming. So we bought that from Mardell, and they actually ended up letting us take it back, even though we had had it about 2 weeks, which is amazing. I will sing their praises forever and a day. So we ended up taking our Saxon math back, and part of me wishes I would have pushed pause on it instead and let him get his writing curriculum, his English curriculum, all of that other stuff, our family curriculum that was new, under his feet before I started this. And I think we would have continued on with Saxon. But instead, I took back Saxon and I started him on teaching textbooks. And that is what we used from, I guess, the end of August until January. And it was okay. I, as a mom and as a teacher, loved it because somebody else was teaching the lesson. I could give them my computer and say, here, take it, do your lesson and do your work. It was glorious. Totally a win. The program was good. The lessons were pretty good. I loved it. He, on the other hand, did not like it. He really missed a workbook, pencil and paper math. And then when they changed over to their new format, it quit working on our desktop computer that was really, really old. And so we ended up switching anyway because he was not happy with it. And that was just fine. What we ended up moving to was BJU 4th grade math. And we did that because the local university model UMS school here that he could possibly one day attend, this is the curriculum that they use. And that was a great move. I feel like it is a good balance in between maybe like teaching textbooks and Saxon. It had enough instruction and enough practice, but not too much. And so I really liked it. It's also very colorful, and it went in almost like Mastery, but as well as Spiral, because you would work on a certain chapter and you would do all kinds of problems pertaining to that one particular objective you were trying to learn, and then you move on to the next thing, and it built upon itself, which was great. Because we started in the middle of the year, I had this kid do 2 math lessons every single day, and he rocked it. This was his choice to switch. It is what he wanted to do. He took ownership of it, and he got so far. I need to look and see where we left off. We left off, I believe, at chapter 11, and there are 15 in here. So in my mind, that was amazing. I really liked BJU math. I did not personally buy the teacher's manual for this, and I did okay without it. It wasn't until the very end that I was texting a friend that I knew had the manual, just to make sure I was teaching it the way that they were wanting it to be taught. There is a slight bit of instruction at the beginning. Let me see if I can find one to show you. Okay, so there is a little bit of instruction at the top of a page before they get started. And so I was using that, and he could read that and know what the concept was that I needed to teach and go from there. This is probably the last year I'll be able to do that, honestly. I would also YouTube a lot and show some videos if I thought that it would be easier to understand that way, and that was great. I really enjoy BJU math, and in fact, this probably will be what we just pick up and use next year because he's used to it, he's seen it, and he enjoys it. I will make sure though I buy the teacher's manual. It is important. towards the end, especially as you get into those harder and higher concepts. Didn't work. What else didn't work? I hate to say it because I was really excited about this one, and it was our writing curriculum, which we used IEW, the Institute for Excellence in Writing, Structure and Style, Level A. This was another one of those things that, like teaching textbooks, I was so excited because in my head it kind of took something off of my plate. It was video based. Andrew Pudawa, who I adore, teaches these classes, and the children watch them and then they start. And we did it for about 10 weeks. So a couple months. We gave it a really good run, but it became incredibly cumbersome. And it is a classical, I think, if that's how you would kind of classify it, type of curriculum. And so I felt like personally I was looking for something that led into more of the basics, the very, very basics and fundamentals that were developmentally appropriate for writing. Like, here's a paragraph, it consists of 3 sentences. Like, even as basic as that, you know, starting there, here's how to write a narrative paper. Here's how to write an informative paper. Here's how to write a how-to paper in a way that would make sense and be, once again, very basic, to start very, very basic and then work your way up from there. This did not quite do that. Mr. Pudawa is funny, but I found this kid, even though he was enjoying watching these videos, he was not retaining it as much. And also what they were expecting and how they had the class structured is you were basically using another person's paper that they wrote and basing what you were writing off of somebody else's very good writing, which is great, but that takes a lot more time to come back through and edit. So I was the editor as the mom, and rewrite and re-explain and all that kind of stuff. And it was just taking a really long time. He wasn't understanding it. And finally, I just said, you know what? We'll put it down and we'll work on writing in another way. And that was what we did. So I enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. We did give it a valiant run. I'm not gonna say, you know, it wasn't like with Saxon that I just said, okay, we'll switch, it's fine. We really, really tried. It took a lot of time, especially as a mom, and I tried it all kinds of different ways. I would have him completely write the paper, and then we'd spend the last day editing it. That took a really long time once we got to that Friday. So then I started saying, we'll write a paragraph and then come to me, and at the end of the day, we'll edit it. Even still, we were spending about 45 minutes after everyone else is done editing this one paragraph and talking to him about it. Because there were some things they were wanting in there, like you had to make sure there was a who, which clause and a certain, you know, all these certain things had to be in each paragraph. Well, an introductory paragraph sometimes doesn't need that. But this kid is a rule follower and he was like, but it has to be in there. And stuff like that. And so it was just, I'm looking for something a little bit more fun, a little bit more engaging, and this has nothing to do with Mr. Pudawa. Like I said, those classes and him, he was amazing, but the content itself. So we do have this. Maybe we pull it out later on, but I just didn't feel like it was developmentally appropriate or engaging enough for at least my kiddo. The next thing that we stopped doing was our My Father's World, Exploring Countries and Cultures. And this just became too much. This year for us, I know y'all have heard me say it a million times, was really, really difficult. It was very hard for me to figure out how to get everybody doing all of their individual lessons that were on all of their individual levels and still have time at the end of the day for the things that I wanted and for the things that are supposed to be in homeschooling. And so we really tried, especially those first 2 weeks. I'm telling you guys, I tried to put everything in, but we were still doing school at 4:30 sometimes, and that was crazy. So that was also another thing that I just said, pause. We're pausing it, we'll come back, we'll use it again later, but we're not gonna do this right now. And we never picked it back up. In fact, I went back to our Adventures in American History, which is actually supposed to be for 2nd and 3rd graders. And we also already had that we had put on pause so we could go and do CC that year. And I pulled that back out, and that is what we started doing the second half of the semester. is finishing that up, and that was great. So those were a few of the things that did not work. Some of them, like exploring countries and cultures with My Father's World, it wasn't necessarily the content or the curriculum itself, it was just the year that we had and how much we needed to get done within that certain time and how much of me I had to give. And then some of it, like IEW and like teaching textbooks, just wasn't a good fit or wasn't what either he was looking for or I was looking for. Doesn't mean that they're bad curriculums, just did not work for us.